What's up? This is Rick from pseudosamurai.com coming at you with another very exciting tutorial. Today we're going to cover animating in our game using Dragonbones. So Dragonbones, what is this? This is a extension for Flash which allows you to animate characters and export a sprite sheet that's very small because it's all done in code. It's kind of hard to explain, but as we go through the process, I think you figure it out. So anyway, we're going to head over to dragonbones.github.io and we're going to download it. Right, so go to the download page. I think I'm just using the stable version, 2.2. You get 2.3, but I don't know. Whatever. So I've already downloaded it, and it's right here on my desktop. I've extracted it. It comes with some demos, some other things. This is what we want, the ZXP file. If you hopefully have your Adobe extension panel, if you double click, it'll open that up and it'll ask you to install. I already have it installed in Flash, Dragonbones right here. At any rate, hopefully you can get that installed. So I'm going to come into Flash, and I have my hero, which we've been working on. You know, all our little animations here. I'm going to duplicate just one of these animations. I'll duplicate walk. Okay, and we're just going to call it hero. Why not? Okay, and I'll go over to hero here. Okay, so what I need to do is the first thing is I'm going to create a blank layer here. I'm going to put a frame label and call this walk right there. Okay, so I just labeled this animation. Right now, basically what I'm going to do is put all the animations into one symbol, one movie clip. Okay, so next up I'll go to idle, and what I can do is select it, and then if I go right click, I can go copy frames, and I can go back to my hero, and I can hold shift and select all those, and then right click and say paste frames, and there we go. There's all my, so I'm gonna label this one idle, right? And then the next one, what are we gonna do? Let's do jump. So again, copy frames, back to hero, and paste frames. There we go. Did I copy too many frames here? I think I did. Yeah, I did. Don't do that. Alright, so shift F5 will get rid of those. That's fine. Okay, so this one's jump. Like that. Next up, let's do what? Let's do duck. So copy frames, go over to hero, and paste frames. Good. Label it duck. Okay, and then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more, and it's hurt, right? Hurt. So hopefully you've got this process down by now. Paste those frames, boom, and then I don't need any of that. So shift F5 will get rid of that. Okay, so I have all my animations on the same movie clip timeline, and then I've labeled them, labeled the starting frame of each animation. Okay, so I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm gonna save this, and so I'm gonna go to Window, Extensions, and then there's my Dragonbones panel. Okay, Now I have mine already set up in my workflow, maybe right here. So here's what it looks like. I'm just gonna drag it in here to work with. Okay, shrink it down. Okay, so I go to my hero. I'm gonna right click and, or I'm sorry, that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open my panel and go to import. Make sure I have, so before I do that, select the hero. That way when I go to import, I can just do the selected item, right? Just like that. You only get one option there. Auto size is fine, padding is fine. I hit OK. It's doing its thing. All right, here we go. So now it has all of my animations in my list here, and then all of my bones right here. Okay, so if I wanted to do some animating or whatever, I can manipulate the bones here. Right, this little box will highlight the bone that I'm over. Right, so notice I'm selecting just individual pieces, right? Or that one selected, body selected, right? So, and then by hovering over, I can see what I've got, right? Okay, so we're not really going to play with the bones or anything right now. And of course, I can't make it go back to invisible, so we'll just leave it the way it is. All right, anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to open this panel right here. Okay, for my walk, I need to make sure that it loops. And for my idle, I need to make sure that that loops. Okay, so nothing else needs to loop. But my walk, he's going to loop. And my idle, he's going to loop. Okay, just like that. Now, the other thing you'll see here is the total time. So I can manipulate the animation so it's much slower. He's barely moving now, right? So I don't remember what exactly he was, so we'll have to that looks okay. So that you can adjust how long or how quick the animation is. We also have the blending time, okay, and this is sort of a transition from this animation to the next. Okay, it doesn't look like much now, but in the game, if we leave it this high, and that's not very high, but if we leave it right there, there's a noticeable delay. So I'm actually going to turn that all the way down to 0. Depending on the project, you might want some transition time, but this makes it feel kind of like the animation is lagging behind the input. So I want to make sure I do that. The keyframe ease just changes how it eases between the two, right? So anyway, so that's really all I need to do. I have my animations. I set up all my my timings. He is walking so fast. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so anyway, don't play around with that too much. It might totally mess up what the original animation, but or play with it. I don't know. Experimenting is a good way to learn. So anyway, I've got that all done. Now I'm going to go export, and I'm going to do the ping XML merged. Okay, just like that. Export scale 1. That's fine. And I'll hit OK. And then I'll select, so I'll go to my desktop, and what do we want? We'll go into our character, and we'll call it hero. No, let's not call it hero. We'll call it dragon is fine. I've already done it, but we'll just replace that so you can see. Okay, and so let's shrink. We'll save this file real quick and shrink. Remember to save often. So we'll come over, look at our character. Okay, so last time we did the sprite sheet generated from Flash, same exact animations. Here's what the result was. Okay, so we generated basically one sprite for every frame of animation. Okay, here's what the Dragonbones generates. It generates one sprite for every body part. Okay, so this can reproduce all the animations. So the file size is significantly different, right? This is 4K. This is 145K. So 145, 4.6. So a big difference. Also, the XML file is included in the image. It's written into the metadata of the image. So that's all we need is that one file, right? So I come in here and I drag my dragon, copy it over into my sprites, right? So now I've got my dragon right here. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we don't need the other sprite sheet right now, so I can just erase these. Okay, well, before I do that, I'm going to copy this one right here, the XML import, the embed XML. So I delete here, paste that. I know, I could have just erased the top one. I realize that now. Anyway, so we're going to go dragon PNG, okay? And then we still want the MIME type of octet stream, okay, because it does have the XML data in there. And we're just going to call it hero dragon, like that. So I remember that it's a dragon bone. Okay. Now, in my constructor of my level here, I'm going to put in some code. Okay. So first thing I need is an armature. Okay, so we're just gonna call it arm. That works for me. Actually, we're gonna make that a field variable. So let's come up here. Go private var arm, and it's of type armature, and then make sure you obviously you need Dragonbones, which comes with the Starling, so we should be good. Okay, so we've got the armature, and while we're up here, we might as well make private var factory, and this is of type Starling factory. Okay, Starling factory. All right, so down in our constructor here, we'll say factory equals new Starling factory, just like that. And then what we're going to do is factory dot add event listener, and we're looking for event complete. Okay, and we're just going to call something like on dragon. That's fine. Okay, and then we can generate the handler. Control 1, generate event handler. There we go, very nice. Okay, and then finally we go factory dot parse data, and then we want a new instance of our hero dragon. So hero dragon. So boom, boom, boom. There we go. Very nice. So this sets up a factory, and then listens for when it's complete. So then we parse the data. So when it's done, it's going to come in here. Okay. So what we're going to do in here is set up our arm. So our armature is equal to factory dot build armature, and then we want to build it from. Now you have to remember what you called it in Flash. Okay, so we called it hero right here. Okay, and then so if I look at my Dragonbones, if I look at my XML right here, it'll say armature name hero right here, and it gets that name from whatever we called the movie clip. Okay, so that's what I want, hero, just like that. Okay, and then next up, arm. So one of the things to consider is how fast you want your animation. Because this is done in code, it's going to try and animate at the speed I set for my frame rate, so 60 frames per second. Okay, but I animated it 45 frames per second because I just did. So, or you don't even have to think about that. Maybe you just want to play with the time scale of your animation. Okay, it doesn't really matter. I could leave it alone, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow it down just a touch so that, so arm.animation.timescale, and this can manipulate the speed of my animation. So I'm going to slow it down, so 45 frames going at 60 frames a second, or rather 60 frames a second turned into 45 frames. I just need to slow it down, so it's like 0.75 of the normal time scale. Okay, so that's kind of all I need to do in here. But if I were to run this right now, so we don't need this. This is from before. So all I'd need to do is just call my arm right here, right? And so my view and my hero is going to be arm. If I were to run this, it's not going to work. Okay, well, I'll show you what'll happen. Okay, my hero is there, but you can't see him. Okay, and the problem is the initialize function got called before this got set up. Okay, if that makes any sense. Before it got to before it called this, it initialized, called all this. So the hero got assigned a view of basically an empty object. Okay, so you can't see it even though it's there. Okay, so what we need to do is basically not initialize this stuff until after my dragon event, or my dragon gets called. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a new function. Private function. Just call it a init, and it's just a void. Okay, and I'm basically going to take everything out of here, right, and put it in here. Okay, and then I really don't need this anymore, so we can get rid of that. Okay, so all good. Now I'll just call init from here. Okay, so it won't run any of this until after it builds my armature. Okay, that way now if I run it, my view should work. So I'll save this real quick and run it. Okay, cool. So it worked this time, but we have a problem. Okay, my character is floating, right? So if you look, I'm pushing against the wall here. I'm kind of stuck. So what's happening, okay, let's close this and we'll just do it on this. So you can imagine this block, right? It represents the sort of box 2D object, okay? And it is centered at the top left-hand corner, essentially. So this is what my armature looks like now. So this is the kind of physical object, and this is the view. So when I'm running into the wall, it looks like I'm off the wall, and when I'm standing on the ground, it looks like I'm hovering off the ground, right? So now that you look at that, whoops, ran it twice. So see how I'm the positioning there, okay? Usually registration point is centered in Box 2D, but for whatever reason, it's not in our my menu keeps coming up. It's not with the Dragonbones, okay? So we could come in here and I could try and reposition my artwork, okay? There's probably a few different ways to deal with it, but here's what we're going to do. We're just going to set an offset value in our hero here. So offset X and offset Y. Okay, so basically we could look at it again, but the box is the size of our hero essentially, but it's moved over halfway and down halfway, so we just need to offset it by half. Okay, so our width is 66, so our offset X would be what, 33, right? And then so offset 92, so half of that would be what, 46, right, like that. So now if I run it, that's a little better. So pretty close, right? So the animation seems to be working pretty well. Everything's going okay. Pretty responsive. So it looks all right. You know, and I might play with some of the settings. So it looks like I'm floating on the platform there. The walk speed looks okay. Duck down. Yeah, it looks okay. Just you know, you might have to play with a few settings, but that should be a good place to start for setting up your Dragonbones animations. Okay, so clearly a much smaller memory footprint, probably a little more taxing on the processor, but probably not noticeable. So it's a really good way to animate your characters using Dragonbones. You can also do some pretty interesting stuff. So if we go back to the Dragonbones website real quick, let's see. So if I bring it over here, some of the things you can do that might be pretty difficult is you can animate certain parts of the skeleton individually using code. So a good example would be here. So look at his head. His head animates to follow the bird, right? That would be very difficult with a standard sprite sheet. Okay, you could do things with multiple skins. So I can change weapons, right? So you can go from a gun to a different gun. You can actually do Z switching too as well. So notice the gun is behind his arm. Well, you know, but so sometimes it's behind, sometimes it's in front. You can change that, right? Follow the mouse. This stuff would be very difficult to do with standard sprite sheets. In fact, almost impossible, I would say. So very cool. You know, if you had a game with a character with different armor, different weapons, things like that, you can change skins here. Okay, so this guy, we have multiple t-shirts going on, right? Be easy to change armor or whatever, the look of your character, etc. And again, it's just a tiny little PNG file compared to other, you know, other methods of animating. So anyway, hopefully this gives you some ideas of some of the different things you can do. See, look at that. I can do arrows. I can swing my sword. I can spear. I can chop. Right. It really opens up a lot of possibilities that would probably be impossible to do with traditional animating techniques in Flash. So anyway, Dragonbones, very powerful. Of course, you have to have Flash to use it. I'd hope you have Flash to get through any of this tutorial, but let's say you were doing all this in Flash develop for free. You didn't have Flash to work with. Some free options. You could still use the Citrus engine. You could use as a level editor, you can use something called Tiled Map Editor. Let me see if I can find it. So you could use this to build your levels. It's free. You can also use something called Gleed 2D. And this is a generic level editor. This too can be used in Citrus engine. Okay. And this is another way to edit without using the Flash IDE. As far as something like Dragonbones, you could get Spine 2D. It costs money, but this is a very nice bone editor, just like Dragonbones. In fact, I would say this is probably better, but it does cost money. You'd have to buy it. I think it runs about $50 or $60. So, oh wow, the price went up. It's now $100. Anyway, it's a very good editor. So different options for building your Citrus engine game. I think that covers all the tutorials I wanted to do on animating in Citrus. I'm not sure what I'll do next time. I'm thinking maybe of adding some particle effects and interface, you know, heads-up interface stuff. We'll see. So stay tuned next time, and I'll figure out something interesting to do with the Citrus engine. So, yep. So anyway, see you next time.